Hi, I'm Marianne Overton, leader of the independent group on the Local Government Association, and we're delighted to congratulate Councillor Charles Swift, who's been on Peterborough City Council for over 60 years of such service, where he has hardly missed a meeting and has always cycled to work and kept himself in good order, and is very well respected by his community. I was amazed with other people who've come forward. Actually, you didn't know about this, but a number of people have mentioned to me and come up and just said how well respected Councillor Swift is in his area. So, fantastic record. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Well, thank you very much indeed for those very kind remarks, but I feel a bit embarrassed. Yeah.
But you come from a political family.
Yes, I come from a political background. I mean, my two great-grandfathers was Mayor of Louth in Lincolnshire in the 1880s and 1890s. And then my mother was the Mayor of Peterborough, as you rightly know. My auntie was the Mayor of Dewsbury in Yorkshire. And I've got uncles that was mayors of Battery and Morley, so we've got and my sister was also mayor of the city of Peterborough. But I've been very fortunate because, as you rightly said, it's over 60 years ago that I entered Peterborough City Council, but of course things were entirely different then to what they are today.
So what was it like then? You had on the Prime Minister at the time?
Well, that was Winston Churchill, but we'd met all Prime Ministers during that period. I've been very fortunate too that I was the leader for over 20 years of the council. But if we could go back to when I feel very sad today that the councils haven't got the authority and the prestige and are able to do what we did all those years ago, because we were responsible when I first entered the council from everything from cradle to grave. We administered the police service, the fire service, and midwifery. We were building 400 houses a year, parks, recreations, open spaces, and particularly at that particular time, we did a great deal for the senior citizens. I mean, I was the mayor of the city, and on 53 years ago, when I was the mayor of the city, I did the last function of cutting the turkey on the workhouse. So that gives you some idea of what it was in those particular days. And to see that we built all these sheltered accommodations, that people were able to get a council house a fortnight before they were married. We had no waiting list. That I was in a position there where we gave 50 houses to the Americans at Olkenbury when they were short of accommodation, that we took in overspill from London in the 1960s, 70s, from Islington and around there. And then we were able also to have people for the right to buy £2 deposit and a fixed interest rate. And the sad part about it now is that every power, well, the majority of powers are being taken, and that's what's ruined local government, because if we could get back to what it was in its original state, where the council that was elected was able to make their own decisions without being told what to do by some other departments. I'm hoping and praying that, I might see a few more years when it's all right keep talking about giving powers back, but I haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely, and it's very interesting to me because on Local Government Association, the vision that you talk about how things were is exactly the vision that we've been promoting. That's something we are asking for and calling for from central government right now. So we are actually trying to get what you had, and in the meantime appears to be taken away from us. It
would be wonderful if we could really put the clock back, wouldn't it, to all those days ago when the committees made the decisions and passed them on then. I mean, indirectly, in some respects, yes, a leader had an authority, but he'd also got the authority given to him by the council to act upon leaders today. I think in some respects, although the cabinet system might have worked in some areas, it's been taken advantage of in other areas by people usurping their authorities. That's my opinion.
How many people would you have in the area for each councillor? How much would they be responsible for in the beginning?
Well, to be quite truthful now, in the beginning when we was elected, I liked areas where there was just one councillor for say 3,000 or 4,000 electors, and he could be the power for those particular people and keep his eye on exactly what was taking place and the advantage of it. But what we've got now, sadly, is too many councillors with too little to do, and that's frustrating for them also. And then of course what's actually ruined local government in another sense is because the people that's in authority, you'd have a town clerk and you'd have officers, engineers and that, and they would be there for a good spell. Now with short-term contracts out to consultants, when nobody then at the end of the day, you can have a consultant who does a marvellous job, here today, gone tomorrow, then if anything goes wrong, no accountability.
I think one of the things I noticed is that I have to work very hard to get some of those things. For example, if you wanted an improved road or a council, some council housing, or any of those facilities that you seem to have been able to give as part of your job, if I want that, I've got to work very hard from the council, but also from the community, and get other sources of funding together to make quite a big package. Whereas perhaps before it was something that you were able to put in place.
Well, one of the biggest things that's gone totally wrong now is, and housing associations indirectly have done a good job, but you take Peterborough, where we had to hand over all our 10,000 council properties, told by the government that we couldn't run them, and yet we built all these lovely estates, passed them over to housing associations, then the money that we got from them, and we only received £4,600 per council property. It was and now these housing associations are left in the same boat now, and we are now having to give money, and it's a wicked, scandalous waste of money. How housing associations and local authorities have been let down by, in the first instance, telling them we're doing a good job, and now they're starving them of funds.
There is so much need, isn't there, that we can't fulfil. Did you have a lot more money then, as well as more power?
We didn't have an awful lot of money, but you've got people that, I mean, you could borrow from the Public Works Loan Board at a fixed interest over a period of years, and you weren't dictated to. I mean, and then Peterborough was very fortunate. They're talking about the new town concept now, but unless they get it right, Peterborough is a new town, as you rightly know, and I was privileged to be on the Development Corporation from the very start to the finish. I did all the negotiations with the late Nick Crossman, Tony Greenwood and all those people at that particular time. And we were given what's termed as a blank cheque indirect, but paid dividend, paid amount of dividend. But now, you've got the Commission for New Towns and they've got English Heritage and everybody. You've got too many people that's got too many little pots of money and nobody really challenging it in the right place.
Yes. The other thing that really interested me was what you were talking about with, one of the roles was about foster children and so on.
Well, yes, well I can tell about foster children because I think it's scandalous how they get any foster parents at all now. What they have to go through is unbelievable. I was a foster parent, but I was able to adopt my first child within 3 months of taking him in. And then my second child, 3 months exactly the same, and then we're very fortunate to have 3 or 4 more of our own, so I've got a very large family. But they all mix together, but they do channel it, and a typical example is, now one of my grandsons, who's had a child and now can't have any more, wants to foster a child, and he's been on the go for about 18 months, going through unbelievable red tape. It's awful, and they're not going to get people in that particular, and so you've got to get back again to the old system. Let's have some common sense, and we haven't got it. We haven't got it, so you've got about, I would hazard a guess today, you've got 50% of the children that are in the care of local authorities waiting to be fostered and adopted that they should be out now and dealt with.
Absolutely. And the other thing I was thinking, just to come to round things off a little bit, you started when you were 23, I think you were first elected,
yes.
and you're still a councillor now on Peterborough City, you're serving councillor on Peterborough City
Correct,
Council
yes.
today.
So we've got another year or two to go.
Another year or two to go.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you feel just as enthusiastic for getting it right for your community? Are you still as committed to your community?
Well, the problem is, you rightly know that the sad part of it is that it's a harder work now to be a councillor, because there's so many pressures on the council where youngsters can't get anywhere to live, where there's friction between the families, and again, they don't. They've got to go through all the red tape system to get the local authority, and so much is being put out by local authority to the private sector. So an ordinary person doesn't know where to go to get help.
So if they do need their counsellor, so there's the role of a counsellor is perhaps as important from the public's perspective, if only they had the powers and the money to solve the issues.
It's far more important now, and again, you get the counsellor that he comes in with good intent as a counsellor, but he's so frustrated with the system that it is, then you lose them, and we're losing good people.
What makes a successful counsellor? What do you think is needed?
Well, I think a successful counsellor is someone that can adapt himself to what other people relate to. Common sense is the answer to it at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.